A mouse cursor hovers over a computer desktop. Someone clicks on a PowerPoint file for a new hire orientation. It's the final version of the presentation for Daydream Inc. So what kind of company is this anyway? Rumor has it they sell a miracle hair loss treatment that even works on horses. Others say they're a top-tier pharma company specializing in skin treatments. But those rumors are just the tip of the iceberg. They claim to provide every single medicine a person could ever need. A magical company that builds its brand on creating literal miracle drugs. Welcome to Daydream Inc., where the recruits are eager to start. The examiner stands on stage, gripping a microphone with a manic grin. He welcomes the crowd, telling them they've all been hand-picked as the chosen ones. Kim Solemn stares ahead, recognizing the company name immediately. It's a place that claims magic makes anything possible. The examiner explains that out of all the hires, only a very special few were invited here today. With a laugh, he announces that everyone in the room has been assigned to the field exploration team. Solemn freezes. In the world of horror wikis, that team is infamously known as the Death Squad. The recruits look around at each other, confused by the strange team name. Most of them have never even heard of a pharmaceutical company having a team like that. They whisper back and forth, questioning what kind of work they'll actually be doing. Solemn doesn't wait for answers. His first instinct is to find an exit. But before he can make a move, the examiner's voice booms through the room again. Solemn had just reached the door when it slammed shut, while the examiner's voice announced that they would have a short probationary period before their employment was finalized. Their aptitude will be assessed through a strict, absolute grading system. He flashes a wide, unsettling smile and asks for everyone's enthusiastic participation. With a sharp snap of his fingers, he promises to weed out every last freeloader. Suddenly, the auditorium goes pitch black, and the recruits start to panic. In the silence, a heavy mechanical thudding begins to rattle the floor. Someone grips their legs as the ground beneath them starts to vibrate. When the lights flicker back on, they're no longer in the auditorium. They're inside a moving subway car. An automated voice thanks them for riding the Abyss Transit, warning that the train won't stop. It tells the passengers to stay alert if they want a smooth journey to their final destination. A screen on the wall shows the route, but the text is glitching out into unreadable characters. Panic sets in as the recruits realize the doors are sealed shut. One woman stares at her reflection, hoping this is just some twisted escape room game. Solemn watches them, knowing deep down that this is no simulation. Based on everything he's read, this is definitely not a game. He realizes nobody could have prepared for a first day of work like this. A recruitment poster mockingly reminds them that they're in the place where miracles are made. The other survivors look around in shock, still trying to process their new reality. Solemn stares at his new company ID, confirming his spot on the ill-fated exploration team. The intercom announces the first stop, Sorrow Station. The death survival test is on. The announcement echoes through the car. They've reached Sorrow Station. Most people here don't realize their lives just reached a dead end. Without knowing it, they've walked straight into the middle of a ghost story. Suddenly, a memory flashed through Solemn's mind. An image of a girl walking home after finishing a long, exhausting day of work. She remembers planning his laundry and sleep, just another typical night for a salaryman. But after a quick nap, she woke up to a reality that shouldn't exist. She opened his eyes to find himself trapped inside this empty subway car. It looked like any other train, but the silence was heavy and wrong. Every instinct she had was screaming that this wasn't a normal ride. The window showed nothing but static, like the world outside was just broken data. Solemn looks down as he pieces together the dark truth behind this orientation. The company isn't just testing them, they're using urban legends to cull the weak hires. The intercom drones on, formalizing their arrival at the non-existent stop. It calls for all passengers whose final destination is Sorrow Station to prepare to leave. The doors slide open, revealing a platform that feels like a trap waiting to snap shut. A countdown begins, 30 seconds to decide if they want to stay or take their chances outside. Some hires stare at the sign, confused by the name Sorrow. They assume it's just a weirdly named exit and a chance to finally get off this train. Panic spreads as people worry they'll be stuck if they don't hurry out while they can. Solemn curses under his breath, watching them rush headfirst into disaster. One guy laughs, confident that everything looks perfectly fine despite the creepy atmosphere. Solemn steps in, firmly advising everyone to stay exactly where they are. He points out the obvious flaw in their logic. Sorrow Station doesn't exist on any map in the country. The loudmouth pauses for a second, but his pride won't let him back down. He demands to know if Solemn will take responsibility if they miss their only shot at leaving. Another recruit steps in, siding with Solemn and suggesting they wait and see what happens. The chime rings out, signaling that the doors are about to close. Frantic to escape, several hires ignore the warning and scramble onto the platform. A person who didn't manage to step off in time screamed as the doors slammed shut right in front of them. The group that got off turned back to watch the train pull away, feeling smug about their decision to leave. Inside the train, he yelled at the window, thinking that he was the unlucky one. Solemn turns away, frustrated that he couldn't save them from themselves. He gets why they ran. Fear makes people do stupid things. But as the station fades into the distance, the nightmare truly begins. Outside, the hires congratulate themselves, thinking they're safe now that they're off the train. They mock the cowards they left behind, oblivious to the black ink dripping from the ceiling. Before he can finish his thought, a glob of thick black liquid lands right on his head. His companion looks up, finally sensing that they aren't alone in the dark. The platform suddenly turns into a slaughterhouse as something strikes from the shadows. The man stands frozen in terror, covered in the blood of the person he was just laughing with. He scrambles to run, his screams echoing through the empty, dark station. He looks up just in time to see the ceiling reaching down to claim him. Screams of terror rip through the station as black ichor rains down from above. The slaughter is quick and absolute, leaving nothing but carnage behind. Kim Solemn shuts his eyes, unable to do anything for those who wouldn't listen. The silence inside the car is heavy with the weight of the lives just lost. Their gruesome end serves as a brutal lesson for those remaining. One wrong choice is all it takes. This isn't just an orientation. It's the start of a lethal probationary period. A final, bloody mark is left on the glass as the train begins to pull away from the platform. Sorrow Station fades into the darkness, leaving its newest victims behind. In this world, Daydream Inc. doesn't just manage offices, it oversees the dark. And in their line of work, the dark refers to the living nightmares of ghost stories. Employees are treated like expendable assets, thrown into the jaws of urban legends to complete missions. Naturally, that means even their recruitment process is a descent into madness. The intercom continues its polite, eerie drone, ignoring the chaos that just unfolded. Panic begins to set in among the survivors as they realize this test is very, very real. Amidst the crying and trembling, Kim Solemn remains remarkably calm. He knows something the others don't. He's already read the entire wiki for this nightmare. On paper, he should be the ultimate player, a master of this game. He envisions himself as the classic power fantasy hero who knows every secret. With his knowledge, he could easily hog all the lucky breaks and survive unscathed. But there is a glaring, massive flaw in that perfect plan. It's a fatal problem that no amount of information can fix. Despite being an expert on ghost stories, Solemn is a total coward when it comes to horror. His past is a montage of jump scares, sleepless nights, and pure, unadulterated terror. He admits it freely. He's a man who reads about ghosts but can't stand to look at them. He can handle the dry text of a wiki page, but the moment a visual appears, he's done. He's the kind of guy who turns off the background music and images just to survive a scary website. He avoids horror thumbnails like the plague, clicking, not interested with lightning speed. Even when he had to submit his own ghost story, he couldn't bring himself to add a single picture. He once argued with a spirit that stories were plenty scary without the need for visual aids. To him, the imagination was far more terrifying than any poorly rendered image. His friends never let him live it down, constantly mocking his ironic name. They find it hilarious that a guy named Solemn, which sounds like Goosebumps, is a huge scaredy cat. Solemn groans, burying his face in his hands as the reality of his job title sinks in. He decides to focus on the facts, pulling up the wiki entry for his new department. The Field Exploration Team is one of the 5 core divisions of Daydream Inc. But in the world of ghost stories, it's more commonly known as the Death Squad. The title says it all. He's been assigned to the team with the highest mortality rate. A quick headcount reveals that only 8 survivors are left in this car. The intercom chimes again, announcing their next nightmare, Grudge Station. Solemn sighs, already feeling the mental fatigue of the upcoming horror. The absurdity of the situation makes him briefly wonder if just dying would be easier. But then a subtle movement catches his eye, pulling his focus back to the immediate danger. A glowing notification manifests before Kim Solom's eyes, announcing a first prize reward. He stares in disbelief at the floating prompt, a real goods box for the darkness exploration log. The holographic item hovers in the air, seemingly invisible to everyone but him. Nearby, survivors like the cautious hire and the redhead are focused on comforting a sobbing recruit. Trying not to draw attention, Solemn reaches out to claim the mysterious prize. As his fingers make contact, the virtual pages begin to flip and disintegrate into shards of light. A solid object begins to take shape from the digital residue. Solemn catches the item as it falls, his hands trembling with a sudden, sharp realization. It's a phone grip, a piece of mundane merchandise from the world he left behind. But this isn't just any merch. It's official gear from the Darkness Exploration Log series. The very one I bought, he thinks, the irony of his situation settling in. The digital clock of reality seems to stutter and roll back as his memory is triggered. The present fades into a blur of static and ticking counters. Time rewinds past the point of no return, zeroing out the distance between then and now. A sharp, glitchy beep signals a shift in the narrative. The story returns to a few hours earlier, in a world that still made sense. A sign at a local department store cheerfully welcomes visitors to a special event. The promotional art for the Ghost Story series is everywhere, featuring unsettling imagery that fans adore. Ordinary shoppers go about their day, treating the dark as nothing more than a fun marketing theme. Kim Solemn, blending into the crowd in a hoodie and cap, approaches the bustling pop-up store. The shop is dedicated to Prophecy of the End, Darkness Exploration Log, his favorite internet franchise. This viral universe was built around a wiki-style investigation of paranormal entities and legends. Solemn's basket is already packed with items, including the exact same phone grip he's now holding on the train. At the counter, he ignores the whispers of people who assume he's a reseller buying in bulk. Solemn is such a fan that he actually took a paid day off just to be here. He's keeping this hobby a secret, hiding under a hoodie and cap. This isn't even his first time here this week. He's definitely a regular. He sees a special roulette machine. He tells himself he should act like a dignified adult, but the temptation is way too high. A staff member catches him, hyped up because today is the very last day of the event. If he misses it now, that's it. He gives in and follows the staffer over to the machine. The Darkness Exploration Log, roulette begins to spin. He's told to hit the button whenever he feels lucky. He grips the remote, still looking a bit unsure. He presses it, already assuming he'll just get some basic participation prize. The wheel slows down as it approaches the 7th place notepad. But it keeps going, ticking past the spot he expected to land on. It stops right on the grand prize, 1st place. Solemn is totally speechless. He didn't actually think he'd hit the jackpot. The staff starts cheering and clapping. He just stands there, stunned that he actually won the top prize. They hand him the real goods box. He looks at the prize, still unable to believe his luck. The staffer kept hounding him, insisting on his name to make him a custom tag. Kim Solemn gives his name, likely just focused on getting his prize and leaving. The machine begins to whir, processing the request for his unique tag. Out pops a name tag for the game world he's currently trapped in. It's an employee ID for the field exploration team at Daydream Inc. Deer's staff is visibly excited. Apparently, that's one of the most famous factions in the entire game. Solemn knows exactly who they are, the classic evil corporation trope that makes a killing off ghost stories. And the field exploration team is their most infamous division. They're the ones sent into every paranormal disaster, usually just to end up as monster food. Paradoxically, because they're always at the center of the action, many of the legendary characters in the lore are from this team. The staffer is eager to see what kind of exploits Solemn pulls off in the world of the game. Solemn, meanwhile, is already planning to tuck that ID away where no one can ever find it. He told the guy he'd treasure it, but that was a complete lie. Then the memories of that day begin to flicker and distort as they bleed back into his current reality. The flash of the ID card glitches in his mind like a corrupted video file. Solemn remembers waking up in the lecture hall right as the lights went out. Back on the train, he stares at the grip talk he won that day, finally realizing its true value. It's a memorial grip talk, a grade D item that converts memories into text. If the rules of the game are real, he might be able to use his lore knowledge to actually survive. He attaches it to his phone, and the device erupts with a blinding light as the item activates. A full wiki entry for Abyss Transit appears right before his eyes. It lays out the whole nightmare, a train that picks up sleeping commuters and drags them into the dark. It even has the official corporate identification code used by Daydream Inc. This is one of the original dark entries, notorious for being a death trap for rookies. Solemn is stunned that it actually worked. All the random bits of lore he memorized are now organized into a perfectly complete survival guide. The universe he's trapped in is essentially a collection of hundreds of different ghost stories. Trying to recall every rule and escape route on the spot, while in a panic, would be impossible. Since the company doesn't provide instructions, figuring out how to survive is usually a suicide mission. But with this digital cheat sheet, his odds of getting out alive just went way up. He starts scrolling through the database, searching for a specific set of records. He needs to find the past escape logs to see how anyone else managed to beat the train. He taps the screen with a look of intense focus. He finally finds the data he was looking for. The PA system crackles, announcing that the next stop is Grudge Station. After checking the records, Solemn has a decent idea of what they need to do to escape. The other survivors are falling apart, panicking because their phones have no signal or data. They're trying to figure out what a grudge station even is, staring at the blood-stained floor in terror. Solemn watches them, wondering how he's supposed to convince a bunch of strangers to follow him. He gives them a wary, sidelong glance as he weighs his options. He needs to get as many people as possible to disembark with him at the right moment. He asks himself if this is about some noble sense of duty to save lives, but the answer is probably no. Solemn definitely isn't feeling like a hero right now. He's a regular human who's currently dying inside, but he has to keep up appearances to stay safe. He knows that just blurting out everything he knows would be a massive mistake and cause a panic. If he tries to survive these horrors on his own, he knows he won't last very long. The upcoming stations are pure nightmare fuel. One is literally overflowing with twitching eyeballs. Another station is draped in an absolute, suffocating darkness where nothing can be seen. There's even a station where gravity breaks and up and down are completely flipped. Solemn calculates a 70% chance he'll just pass out halfway through and never make it out alive. He decides he needs a better plan than just crossing his fingers and hoping for the best. He figures he can use his social skills to talk everyone into escaping together. He takes another look at the data on his memorial grip talk to confirm the rules. He knows that talking about paranormal logic right now will just make him look like a freak. His strategy is to move slowly and build a foundation of trust with the other hires first. Crowd psychology is his best bet. If he can convince just a few people, the rest will naturally follow. He scans the car, looking for someone vulnerable or potentially useful for his plan. He stops when he spots someone he can use as a connection. He reminds himself that this isn't some campfire story. The danger here is all too real. He zeroes in on Go Young-yoon, who looks like she's on the verge of a breakdown. She's startled when he suddenly enters her personal space and speaks to her. He starts by asking if she's the one who mentioned this feels like a ghost story. She admits she's a fan of paranormal YouTube, and this situation feels way too familiar. The cautious hire nearby pipes up, suggesting they should share whatever information they have to survive. Young-yoon clarifies that it's not hard info, just a gut feeling that they're trapped in an urban legend. She recounts how they were all in a lecture hall before suddenly ending up on this moving train. She starts describing the horrific things she saw in the darkness when the lights went out. The memory of people dying right in front of her eyes is clearly traumatizing her. She has to stop talking because she looks like she's about to gag from the stress. Solemn acts like he's just as disoriented as she is to gain her sympathy. Internally, he's a total mess and wants to throw up just as much as she does. She falls for the act, thinking he's the only person here keeping a cool head. Solemn thinks she wouldn't say that if she knew how close he was to actually fainting. Their talk is cut short by a new person approaching them. It's a guy leaning against a pole who recognizes Solemn from the orientation. Solemn realizes this guy was sitting right next to him back in the auditorium. The guy leans in close, curious about what Solemn is holding in his hand. He reaches out a hand with a predator's grin on his face. He introduces himself as Beek Sahyun. The name hits Solemn like a ton of bricks as he recognizes it from the lore. He's a named employee, a character significant enough to have their own entry in the records. Solemn's phone confirms it. Sahyun is a manager with over 100 successful explorations. His nickname in the community is Viper, and his reputation is terrifying. Solemn realizes he's just run into one of the most dangerous people in this whole game world. Go Young-yoon introduces herself with a polite smile, trying to maintain some semblance of order amidst the chaos. Solemn reflects that her name isn't one he recognizes from the lore, which usually means she's either a nobody or someone with a hidden identity. He knows the named employees are the heavy hitters, those who handle these anomalies professionally or die memorably early. Then there are the ones whose traits are so iconic they're recognized instantly, even if their real names remain a mystery. Solemn sighs to himself, feeling the weight of the situation as he prepares his own introduction to the group. He gives her his name, Kim Solemn, keeping his expression neutral despite the mounting dread in the car. While they talk, the other hires start to segregate into small, frantic groups based on their panic levels. Young-yoon notes that some are trying to find a way to communicate with whoever might be in the other subway cars. Solemn's internal knowledge flags this as a fatal mistake. In this ghost story, moving between cars is strictly forbidden. A chime rings out as the digital display announces that the next stop is Ecstasy Station. The name sounds inviting to the terrified recruits, sparking a dangerous hope that their nightmare might be ending. But Solemn knows better. In a world ruled by nightmare logic, you can't just pick an exit based on a nice-sounding name. He recalls the lore. The themes and names of these stations shift and change every single time the anomaly manifests. Waiting for a station name that sounds right is usually a one-way ticket to a gruesome and painful death. However, there is a way to survive if one studies the patterns and precedents left behind by previous explorers. He mentally accesses the Abyss Transit records, looking through dozens of documented attempts to find a safe path. One record shows a success at the Blue Station, where two people managed to escape the darkness into a color-themed stop. Other stations are named after body parts like cochlea or heart, hinting at the grotesque nature of what lies beyond. Choosing the cochlea station resulted in a total failure, with blood and shadows being the only things left behind. Then there are the time-labeled stations, like 2026, which often lead people into temporal loops or worse. Choosing the 2026 station was another dead end, leading to more casualties for those desperate to escape. Some stations are even named after infamous serial killers, represented by censored, blocked-out names. Surprisingly, a station with such a dark name saw a massive survival rate of 12 people making it out. This confirms Solom's theory. There is absolutely no correlation between a pleasant name and the safety of a station. As the train slows down, the doors open to reveal a bright, clean, and modern-looking platform for Rapture Station. One recruit is immediately taken by the appearance, wondering if they should get off and look for help in this fancy town. Solom's instincts scream at him. He knows the Rapture Station is nothing more than a beautiful, glittering trap. He steps forward quickly, his arm outstretched to block anyone from stepping out of the train car. He asks them point-blank if they are absolutely certain that this pristine-looking place is actually safe for them. The woman he's blocking looks at him with a mix of confusion and mounting irritation at his interference. He reminds them that they all agreed this feels like a ghost story, and ghost stories never have happy endings by chance. Yong-yoon and the others watch in shock as he challenges their collective desire to just run for the first exit. He asks if they are truly willing to gamble their very lives on nothing more than a good vibe or good feeling. The silence that follows is thick with tension as the recruits weigh their blind fear against his cold, hard logic. Not everyone is convinced. The more aggressive hires start to grumble about his doom and gloom attitude. A woman snaps at him to get out of the way, her patience completely evaporated in the face of his warnings. Another recruit mocks him, asking if he thinks this is some kind of quiz show where they get hints. Solom raises a finger, his voice calm and authoritative as he tells them that they actually did receive a hint. He points upward, directing their attention toward the intercom speakers and the scrolling LED announcement. The recruits freeze, their eyes following his gesture with a sudden, renewed sense of dread for what they might see. He explains that from the very beginning, the train's automated announcements have been telling them the truth. The display flickers with a chilling message, thanking them for riding, while explicitly stating that the train does not stop. Solom explains that the danger has been hiding in plain sight from the very beginning of their journey. He points to the mechanical announcement, which tells passengers bound for Ecstasy Station to disembark according to its specific coded instructions. He turns to the group, his voice echoing in the quiet car as he asks if anyone here actually intended for their journey to end at this station. A long-haired woman argues that ecstasy implies happiness and living well, which should be the ultimate goal for everyone. Solom remains unmoved, repeating his question as he tries to break through their irrational hope. The woman lashes out at him, accusing him of interfering and asking if he'll take responsibility if they miss their only chance to escape. To her shock, Solom calmly agrees to take responsibility, his confidence momentarily stunning the group. The screen doors begin to slide shut with a heavy mechanical thud, sealing the recruits safely inside the train car. Solom is internally relieved. By stopping them from getting off, he has likely saved every single one of their lives. However, the relief is short-lived, as someone points out that the passengers in the front car have already stepped out onto the platform. The recruits watch through the windows, wondering if those people will find the safety they are all so desperate for. Solom turns away, unable to bear the sight of the horrific spectacle that he knows is about to unfold. On the platform, a passenger's foot makes contact with the floor, which instantly liquefies into a bubbling golden substance. A man lets out a blood-curdling scream as the golden liquid surges up, melting through his clothes and flesh in an instant. The platform becomes a horrific trap of melting gold, with people sinking and dissolving into the environment they thought was their salvation. Desperate pleas for help are cut short by the sound of bodies being assimilated into the strange, glowing liquid. The carnage is absolute. A recruit is pulled under, his identity erased as he becomes part of the station's horrific landscape. The golden liquid splashes violently against the train's glass doors, a grim reminder of the fate the recruits narrowly avoided. The passengers are reduced to melting husks, their limbs flailing as they are absorbed into the very structure of the station. Through the haze of dissolving faces, the true, predatory nature of Ecstasy Station is finally and brutally revealed. A mechanical chime sounds as the train finally pulls away from the silent, golden platform of death. Go Yong-yoon and the others stare out the window in absolute, catatonic shock at the massacre they just witnessed. One of the men, his hands shaking with terror, grabs Solemn and reminds him that he promised to take responsibility for them. He asks with a broken voice if Solemn can truly find them a safe place, and Solemn answers with a simple, resolute yes. Kim Solemn has no idea how he became the guy with the right answer, especially since his legs are shaking so hard he can barely stand. He's honestly more worried about the stress killing him before anything else. Meanwhile, the cautious hire is already treating him like a savior, calling him incredible. The wavy-haired guy thinks people like Solemn are rare and really hopes his bold promise to save them pays off. Solemn tries to keep his poker face, asking Beek Sahyun which station he's aiming for while playing down his own knowledge. He finds it suspicious that Sahyun hasn't taken the lead yet, considering his reputation. For now, he'll just keep a close eye on him. An announcement suddenly crackles through the car, warning that the train is entering a curved section of track. Solemn immediately takes charge, ordering everyone to sit down to prevent any accidents. Just then, a panicked scream echoes from the very front of the train. They can see a fight breaking out in the next car. People are ignoring the announcement and losing their minds. Someone suggests warning them, but Solemn just looks away. He knows it's already far too late. The train tilts as it enters the curve, just as the intercom said. The front cars are engulfed in a hellish red light. The sounds of metal crunching and people screaming fill the air. Blood splatters the glass of the connecting door. Once the shaking stops, the PA system calmly announces that it's safe to stand again. One of the recruits is having a total breakdown, begging to be let off this nightmare. Seeing the carnage ahead, Solemn realizes that these announcements are their only actual lifeline. He forces himself to take a breath. He has to stay focused and keep the others convinced that he knows what he's doing. The speakers chime again, and everyone immediately tenses up. The train announces that there is a lost item on board. Possession of this item allows exactly one person to disembark safely at the next station. All they have to do is hand the item over to a station attendant. Solemn's eyes go wide. He recognizes this as a miscellaneous record escape case from the lore he knows. The voice continues, explaining the requirement to leave the train safely. The item has to belong to a man in his 20s. Specifically, the right eyeball of an A-type adult male. The intercom crackles to life, demanding a specific lost item, the left eyeball of a male in his 20s with type A blood. It tells the passengers that whoever has the item can get off at the next station. All they have to do is hand it over to a station attendant. Solemn's eyes widen as he recognizes this scenario from the miscellaneous records of his secret wiki. It's a literal one-way ticket out, a rare escape method mentioned in the Darkness exploration log. Possession of that item means a clean exit from the station and the entire nightmare. But there's a catch. The offer only stands for one person. The group starts panicking, repeating the announcement's specific criteria in disbelief. Solemn realizes he's a perfect match for the age and blood type, but he hesitates. He knows they can all survive if they just wait for the right station, so he wonders if he should just let this chance pass. If he takes it now, it'll definitely cause a fight and ruin the group's cooperation for whatever comes next. One of the recruits suggests they start checking who actually fits the description. He asks Solemn how old he is, and Solemn smoothly lies, claiming to be in his 30s while others confirm they aren't a match. When asked about his blood type, Solemn lies again, claiming to be type AB. He knows he's type A, but since he's not planning to use this escape, there's no reason to paint a target on his back. Suddenly, the A-type recruit victim raises his hand and admits he's a perfect fit. The man looks around nervously, unaware of the target he just put on himself. The announcement rings out again as the train approaches Rage Station, and Beek Sahyun lets out a cold, predatory smile. The train begins to slow down as the voice warns that the doors are about to open. Sahyun towers over the recruit, confirming if the man really is type A. As the screen doors slide open at Rage Station, The red lighting in the car turns even more ominous. Sahyun grips his phone tight, his eyes fixed on his target. He tells the recruit it's too bad for him and moves in. With zero hesitation, he slams the man's head back against the wall. Blood sprays as Sahyun digs his fingers in, and the recruit's eyes roll back in shock. The rest of the group, including Go Young-yoon, can only watch in absolute terror. It's a brutal, messy display of violence right in the middle of the subway car. The recruit lets out a muffled scream as Sahyun finishes the job. Young-yoon screams as the victim collapses to the floor, clutching his face. Another recruit yells at Sahyun, but he just stands by the open doors unfazed. He looks back with a maniacal grin, asking why everyone is just sitting around like idiots. He tells them plainly that turning in the item is the only way to get out, leaving everyone stunned by his ruthlessness. The announcement repeats, cold and mechanical, reminding them to find an attendant. Sahyun scoffs, mocking the others for not being willing to go as far as he is to survive. Young-yoon is paralyzed with fear, while Solom watches silently, realizing he's seen this behavior before. It clicks for him, this guy is Viper, a notorious figure from the records he read. He initially thought Sahyun might still be a regular newbie, but this brutality proves otherwise. This is the exact man described in the Darkness exploration log, a person who does whatever it takes. According to the log, Sahyun will even sacrifice his own eye if it matches the description. He makes sure no one else can use the escape by ruining the other candidate's eye first. Solom has to admit the guy's decisiveness is on another level, but he notices a major flaw in the logic. Looking toward the vents, he realizes that Sahyun's violence was completely unnecessary. Solom remembers seeing a certain object earlier and begins searching the train car's vents. He knows that the lost item isn't necessarily something you have to take from someone else. It can be something that simply isn't yours, something dropped by a previous passenger. His hand closes around a small glass jar that someone else must have left behind. The lost item announcement is actually more like a twisted treasure hunt. You're supposed to search the car for an object that matches the description exactly. While some people have escaped by giving up their own parts, it's not the intended solution. Solom watches Sahyun leave the train, thinking the man has clearly crossed a line. He holds up the jar, looking at the preserved specimen inside with a flat expression. It's a perfect match, a left eyeball in a container ready for disembarking. Outside on the platform, Sahyun stares at the item he stole, his eye still bleeding. A mechanical voice tells disembarked passengers to wait on the platform for a staff member. Sahyun stands alone in the dimly lit station, as the announcement promises help will arrive shortly. Suddenly, a horrific creature made of giant syringes lunges from the darkness. The voice thanks Sahyun for his cooperation, as the creature's needles pierce his remaining eye. He's completely overwhelmed by the station attendant's brutal cooperation. The PA system confirms the lost item has been safely transferred to the attendant. Back inside the train, the other recruits are shaken by the screams they just heard from the platform. Go Young-yoon asks if anyone is a medical professional, worried about the victim's damaged cornea. She admits she only studied it in college and never finished her degree, but Solom is still impressed. The intercom announces the next stop is Hatred Station. Solom feels the weight of everyone's expectations, realizing they're all waiting for him to make the choice. Young-yoon looks down, apologizing for everyone leaning so heavily on him. She knows they're all terrified and anxious, and she feels bad for adding to his burden. She admits she's been trying to stir people up because of her own anxiety. She tried to figure out the final destination logic herself and asks what Solom thinks. She mentions the phrase he used earlier and tries to piece it together. She suggests that a person's final destination would logically be death. Solom listens as she explains her theory that life always ends that way. She wondered if they should get off at a station that fits that theme, but it sounded too much like a suicide mission to say out loud. Solom surprisingly tells her it's a very persuasive idea. Young-yoon looks surprised that he actually agrees with her. He gives a small smile, finding her line of thinking interesting. He asks her to consider what a destination really is in the most basic terms. He explains that a destination is essentially a goal or a direction you're headed toward. He notes that the rules of this train are extremely literal. As long as you follow the instructions exactly, you're guaranteed safety. Those who got off at the wrong stations paid a heavy price for their mistakes. Solemn explains that in the context of this train, a destination represents a state they haven't reached yet. It's essentially something you don't currently have, like how people without blue items escaped at Blue Station. Most people escaped at the serial killer station because obviously none of them were killers. Since the current stations are themed around emotions, deciding where to get off just got a lot easier. Solemn concludes that the key to escaping is finding an emotion he currently lacks. As the train slows, the intercom announces that the next stop is Tranquility Station. Solemn turns to Go Young-yoon and the others, declaring that this is their stop. He smiles confidently, telling them they're getting off here while privately questioning what a state without emotion truly looks like. He reflects on how every living person experiences a constant stream of feelings throughout their lives. Most people naturally cycle through joy, anger, sorrow, and pleasure, making those states universal. It's hard to find an emotion that everyone on the train is missing simultaneously. However, Solemn realizes that there is one specific exception to this rule. The PA system repeats that the doors for Tranquility Station will open on the right. In the dictionary, tranquility is defined as a state of mind completely free from any worry or concern. It represents a peace and prosperity that few can truly claim in their daily lives. Under the current circumstances, it's impossible for anyone on the train to feel a sense of peace. Solemn offers his hand to help the injured recruit to his feet. He decides to take the lead, reassuring the group as the victim thanks him for the support. He knows that once he steps onto the platform, the others will follow his lead without hesitation. Looking out at the bloody platform marked peaceful, he prepares to lead them all into the unknown. The other recruits are paralyzed by terror, their expressions warped by the horrific sight of the blood-stained station. They whisper in shock, wondering how such a gruesome place could possibly be the right station. Even Solemn internally screams at the irony of a station named Tranquility, looking like a massacre site. He worries about how to convince the others to follow him when he doesn't even want to step out himself, until someone grabs his arm. Go Young-yoon suddenly shouts to the group, boldly supporting Solemm's decision. She tells him that he's the only one who has stayed calm, while everyone else was drowning in fear. She notes that while some were willing to hurt others to survive, Solemn remained steadfast and kind. She declares that if she has to follow anyone, she'd rather it be a good guy like him. With a steady step, she is the first to cross the threshold between the train and the platform. She runs onto the blood-spattered tile, showing the others that it's safe to proceed. She calls back into the train car, urging everyone to get off and join them at the correct station. Solemn looks on with a mix of surprise and relief as his burden of leadership is lightened. The recruit with the injured eye smiles, telling Solemn that he trusts his judgment implicitly. The rest of the group finally finds the courage to move, following Solemn and Young-yoon out of the car. Solemn takes a breath and acknowledges that the plan is finally in motion. He leads the survivors up a set of stairs, telling them to focus solely on the sensation of moving upward. Their footsteps splash through puddles of blood as they march forward through the dark terminal. They continue their ascent, the sound of their rhythmic walking echoing through the empty halls. They pass beneath an exit sign that looks just as grimy and worn as the rest of the station. The path ahead is pitch black, swallowing the group as they leave the platform behind. For a moment, there is only silence and the void of the dark tunnel. Suddenly, a blinding flash of light accompanies a heavy metallic clang. Solemn finds himself standing in a brightly lit, modern room as a voice loudly congratulates the new employees. He blinks, his pupils dilating as he tries to process the sudden change in environment. The examiner stands at the front of the room, calmly counting the survivors as they filter in. He counts 4 people in total, while the exhausted recruits look around in a daze, still reeling from the nightmare. The examiner continues his count, his eyes narrowed as he observes the survivors. Go Yong-yoon and the other recruits are overwhelmed with relief, tears of joy streaming down their faces as the count rises to 7. Yong-yoon lets out a shaky breath, finally letting the reality sink in. They actually survived the ordeal. In total, 8 survivors from their car have successfully completed the test and are now seated in the assembly hall. The examiner takes the stage, sounding genuinely impressed by the outcome. He announces that 22 trainees in total have completed the probation period, a record-breaking number for the company. He jokes about it being a difficulty-balancing mistake, declaring this group to be an elite class of recruits. Solom sits in stoic silence, noticing that none of his fellow survivors are reacting to the examiner's high praise. The examiner singles out Solom, calling him to his feet to congratulate him personally. He praises Solom's incredible situational awareness, nodding that he would have been a perfect fit for a different department. Solom stands awkwardly, wondering if this surreal moment is actually happening and questioning the department the examiner mentioned. The examiner hands Solom a shopping bag, explaining that it's a gift from the company given to all top performers. Solom takes the gift with a polite bow, though he doesn't feel a single ounce of joy about receiving it. The examiner leans in close, his voice dropping to a whisper as he tells Solom to take a good look at what's inside the bag. The examiner turns his attention to the next recruit, calling Baek Sahyun to step forward. Solom watches as a battered and dazed female recruit is processed next, her expression vacant. Baek Sahyun sits nearby, clutching his own gift bag with a haunted look in his eyes. Solom observes the varying states of the survivors, realizing that each train car must have experienced a different flow of time. He looks at the bruised and broken Sahyun, assuming the man will need to head straight to a hospital once they are dismissed. The examiner claps his hands, checking to see if everyone has received their gifts before making a final announcement. With a dramatic flair, he officially welcomes them all as the newest hires of Daydream Inc.'s field exploration team. Suddenly, the examiner's voice cuts through the celebratory mood, telling the group to hold on for just a moment. He points out a harsh reality. Not everyone put in the same amount of effort, and some simply rode on the coattails of others. The examiner flashes a manic grin, announcing that they're going to weed out all the freeloaders for the sake of fairness. All at once, the recruits who didn't contribute enough start dissolving into shimmering, oily puddles. Kim Solom watches in silence as the people right next to him melt away into nothing. When the purge finally stops, only 13 recruits are left in the entire auditorium. Go Yong-yoon is completely paralyzed, covering her mouth as she stares at the empty space where her coworkers used to be. Another recruit looks on in disbelief at the pile of sludge left on the seat beside him. The company makes it clear that only those who produced results have earned their spot. Overcome by terror, Go Yong-yoon finally snaps and shouts that she wants to resign immediately. The examiner acts confused, asking why she'd want to quit a great job before even hearing about the perks. He tells her to listen to the benefits first, promising she can leave with 0 penalties afterward. The examiner flashes a manic grin, telling the recruits they might change their minds once they hear about the corporate benefits. Kim Solom isn't convinced, watching the man skeptically. He announces it's time to unveil the company's signature perk. A glowing vial of the wish ticket medicine appears on the screen behind him. He brags about their pharmaceutical tech, joking that they even have the cure for baldness. But that's just a side project. The real flagship product is far more powerful. The words wish ticket flash in bold letters on the screen. It's a drug that supposedly grants every single wish its user desires. The examiner shouts it out to the crowd like it's the greatest prize on earth. Since it sounds too good to be true, he decides to give them a live demonstration. He pops the cork on the glowing vial, letting the mist escape. The recruits whisper among themselves, wondering if this whole thing is just a massive lie. They realize they don't even know what his original wish was in the first place. A bright, sparkling light washes over the stage as the drug takes effect. The examiner looks years younger and full of energy, laughing at the immediate results. He claims the ticket is powerful enough to even turn back the clock on your own body. He explains that the field exploration team earns these tickets twice as fast as any other department. In fact, the 10 fastest recipients in company history all came from their specific team. He tells them they're in the perfect spot to get everything they've ever wanted. Kim Solom realizes it's all just wordplay. The high rewards are meant to distract them from the high body count. Even so, he knows the tickets themselves are a real thing, not just a scam. The rest of the recruits are clearly starting to believe the hype. A heavy silence falls over the room as everyone starts weighing the risks against the rewards. The examiner gestures grandly, letting the temptations sink in. He mentions that with a wish ticket, you could even bring the dead back to life. Solom thinks about how these supernatural deals always have a predictable catch. The examiner mocks the idea of it being impossible. He clenches his gloved fist, selling the dream with total confidence. The red-haired hire looks completely mesmerized by the possibility of a miracle. He promises that the ticket will grant every single wish their hearts desire. Suddenly, the massive doors to the auditorium swing open. He gives them a final out. They can leave now and withdraw their application if they're scared. But for those staying, he tells them to put on the masks found inside their shopping bags. Solom sighs, realizing the moment he dreaded has finally arrived. He reaches into his shopping bag and pulls out a sleek black eye mask. A small business card with a phone number written on it falls onto the floor. He remembers the host's earlier warning to take a good look and decides to check the card later. He inspects the mask, realizing this is his official entry into the team. According to the wiki, these masks are issued immediately after orientation concludes. The theme of the mask actually depends on the year you joined the company. It's the official symbol of Daydream Inc.'s field exploration team. Solom puts on a fake smile for the farewell ceremony, but internally he just wants to bolt. In this world, paranormal phenomena are just a part of the city's background noise. Quitting means dying as an extra, so Kim Solom has to find a different way out. The only real goal now is to escape this world, and its twisted rules entirely. Beek Sahyan clutches his head, a sinister grin creeping across his face. The colleague looks down at her bag, clearly feeling the weight of the situation. He stares at the black mask in his hands, wondering what he's getting himself into. These custom masks are designed to change shape based on the wearer's personality. A silhouette of a jagged antler begins to form on the surface of the mask. A bright light erupts as the transformation process completes itself. The protagonist now wears a mask adorned with sharp black antlers. He wonders if everyone else's mask is just as strange as his deer-themed one. Go Young-yoon puts on her mask, laughing nervously as she shows it off. With the probation period over, their employment with the company is officially confirmed. The survivors stand in a row, each now fully integrated into the field exploration team. A system notification pops up, announcing that new goods have been unlocked. He is surprised by the sudden holographic message floating right in front of him. The permission unlocked alert shines brightly on the screen. Kim Solom decides it's too risky to check the details while everyone is watching. The examiner starts talking about benefits, making him realize he doesn't even know where he'll sleep. He pictures himself floating in space, wondering if a home even exists in this reality. The colleague waves at him with a bright smile as they meet up again. He presses the elevator button and gives her a short, polite greeting in return. She asks if he got approved for the housing perk, and he confirms as she wheels her luggage. His phone shows an invalid address, proving his past is being systematically erased. Even his family contact information has been completely wiped from the records. Kim Solom shares a tense, silent moment with his new roommate in the apartment. The examiner brags about housing support, and he decides to take full advantage of it. Despite the creepiness, he officially moves into the provided company housing. He figured no one else would be crazy enough to move in after what they went through. Go Young-yoon reveals that over half the hires actually chose to stay in the dorms. They both agree that free rent in a prime location is too good to turn down. The elevator hits the 12th floor, opening up to a surprisingly modern hallway. The protagonist suspects the proximity to the office is just a way to ensure overtime. He opens the door to his room, but the real trouble is waiting on the other side. He finds himself staring directly at his new roommate's cold expression. Of all people, he's been assigned to live with the dangerous Beek Sahyun. A heavy silence falls over the kitchen as the two of them just stand there. He notices the guy has a medical patch over his eye, likely fixed by the company. He decides it's best to keep his distance and not get involved in any drama. The protagonist turns to head to his room, hoping for a peaceful night. Someone calls out to him, stopping him before he can step away. He turns back with an annoyed look, wondering what the hell his roommate wants. Kim Solom can't believe what he's hearing. He's officially stuck with a complete psycho for a roommate. Beek Sahyun's nonchalance about the violence they witnessed is chilling. Did he actually enjoy watching someone's eye get crushed? Solom stands in silence, the weight of his new reality sinking in. There's no escaping this guy now. Sahyun looks up, sensing Solom's gaze, but his expression remains unreadable. A sharp, menacing energy flares up between them as Sahyun leans in closer. With a twisted, dark smile, Sahyun admits he actually had fun during the ordeal. He laughs as if he's high on the chaos, thanking Solom for being part of such a great time. Solom is speechless, his shock and disgust visible as he stares back at the lunatic in front of him. Sahyun continues his dark monologue, reminiscing about the entertainment he's missed for so long. He flashes a wide, bright grin that feels entirely wrong given the context of his words. He hopes things stay this fun for as long as possible, leaving Solom even more unsettled. Sahyun finally turns to walk away, ending the tense confrontation as abruptly as it began. Solom realizes that in Sahyun's eyes, he's the one who looks like a complete lunatic now. Having dealt with his fair share of difficult people, Solom has developed a keen radar for problem clients. To him, Beek Sahyun is the textbook definition of a god-complex type of problem client. The description is biting. These types have no shame, no conscience, and completely rewrite reality to suit themselves. Solom knows that with people like Sahyun, the only way to survive is to bluff harder than they do. His earlier comment about wanting to work together was a total bluff, intended to throw Sahyun off his game. As Solom retreats to his own room, his main goal is just to fool Sahyun enough to avoid getting stabbed in his sleep. He looks around the room, which is surprisingly spacious and filled with high-quality furniture. The perks of this job are almost too good to be true, including a private bathroom and weekly cleaning services. Waiting for him on the desk is a welcome gift box filled with snacks and fancy office supplies. The wealth of Daydream Inc. is staggering, but the excessive generosity feels like a golden cage. Solom suspects the company is just trying to make it impossible for anyone to want to leave. Among the gifts, he finds a sleek black planner for the upcoming year. Opening the planner reveals strange doodles and a childish declaration of marriage. Something is definitely off. Solom closes the planner, trying to push aside the eerie feeling it gives him. He sighs, feeling like he's already a lost cause in this bizarre corporate nightmare. He sits on his bed, finally alone, and able to focus on the system alerts he ignored earlier. A notification appears, prompting him to check the new goods that have been unlocked for him. He reaches out toward the glowing holographic notebook, curious about what it contains. The pages flip rapidly on their own, glowing with an intense, otherworldly light. An item drops out of the notebook, a simple-looking yellow smiley face sticker. A system window displays the smile sticker details, describing its power to manipulate a sentient being's affection. Solom stares at the sticker, which looks incredibly cheap for something with such terrifying potential. In the world of the supernatural, this is what's known as a bribe item. Apparently, the sticker was so overpowered that it ended up being scrapped by the system. Solom reads through old comments from developers who argued about whether the item was too easy to use. The item's requirement is high. Only full-time employees are allowed to use it. Solemn realizes it must have unlocked for him because of his sudden promotion. It could be his greatest tool for survival. He stares at the blank notepad, feeling a deep sense of unease. Even the stationery in this world feels like it's part of a ghost story. As night falls on his first day in company housing, a vase of flowers glows faintly in the dark room. Solemn realizes his work starts in just a week, giving him little time to mentally prepare. As he drifts off to sleep, the weight of the day's bizarre events finally catches up with him. The night is anything but peaceful, as he's immediately plunged into a series of terrifying nightmares. The torment lasts all weekend, leaving him exhausted and on edge. A week later, the morning sun hits the sleek facade of the Bikildang building, marking the start of Solemn's new life. Go Young-yoon approaches Solemn in the lobby, concerned by how unwell he looks. He looks like he hasn't slept in days, his eyes shadowed and weary. Solemn tries to play it off, admitting he's a bit tired but fine, despite the weekend of nightmares. Young-yoon heads to her floor, while Solemn continues up to his own assignment. He knows the field exploration team is spread across floors 10 to 15. When the elevator stops at the 13th floor, the number feels like a bad omen to Solemn. He steps out into a long, quiet hallway, searching for Team D's office. A man and a woman are already waiting for him inside, their expressions unreadable. The man greets him with a friendly smile, seemingly relieved that he's finally arrived. Solemn introduces himself formally, bowing to his new teammates. Supervisor Park Min-seong welcomes him warmly, while assistant manager Yoon Ha-ji maintains a stern, professional distance. Ha-ji mentions that they're called Team D because all the new hires keep dying, then quickly adds that she's just kidding. The joke falls flat, leaving an awkward silence hanging in the air. Solemn wonders if it's too late to just quit and walk away from all this. But at Daydream Inc., quitting isn't an option, the journey is just beginning. As an added perk, the company even offers a weekly cleaning service for their housing, making the job even harder to walk away from.